Hi, everybody. Okay, let's news. We're at day 1896. 1896 days since Richard was forcibly removed from his barracks room there on Fort Bliss, and he was taken to a soundproof room, and they took his life. He fought. He fought very hard. Our information that we're getting is that he ruined somebody's mouth. He kicked someone's mouth in or pounded it in, and they had to have emergency dental work. They had to have dental work done. So, but his life was taken. He was outnumbered, and this was on Fort Bliss, okay? And why did they do that to him? Because he was a whistleblower. He was a whistleblower about the cartel infiltration onto Fort Bliss, and its connection with the Walmart mass shooting and the criminal trafficking, child sexual exploitation that was going on. So many things. And he reported to many different agencies from IG to CID to FBI to the White House, and absolutely El Paso Police Department. And so, and there's been a big cover up because they stole his remains. They dismembered them, and they trafficked his remains. So, of course, we have now confirmation that he was killed in the line of duty. This is a really big deal for our son's case. I want to make sure that I'm on here. There you go. Okay. And yeah, so he that's why we have the 3 autopsy numbers. That confused us at the beginning, when we got those. And now everything is explained because of Plenitude Crematorium. When President Trump became president again, number 47, it explained, he explained a lot to us, a lot. We received the in the line of duty designation just 4 days after he was inaugurated. And of course, day one, he designated the cartel as FTOs. This was a big deal. And ever since then, he has, of course, on August 6th and 7th, we received 2 letters, one on the 6th, and then the next day, another letter. And that clarified so much for us. And he signed his name. It's right behind me. That's a copy of it too. That's a copy of it because the original, well, needs to be very, very protected. It's that's one of the letters, really beautiful letter, that just pours honors onto Richard. And that's very important because that tells everybody that there was absolutely a smear campaign against our son. And we said that to the command, and they allowed it. They even participated in it. They even participated in targeting us and doing the same to our family. They allowed that all to happen. They wanted it to all happen because they are complicit. They are even guilty in what happened to our son. And, but that was all a lie. The whole smear campaign was all a lie. What Bob Moore has reported in El Paso Matters is a lie. He'll have to answer to that soon. This is, really the weaponization of the media, the weaponization of our military, the weaponization, of course, of our justice system, the weaponization of our law enforcement. And some of that we have learned is because this cartel Mormon faction that's tied to the CCP. Want to make that very clear because that has been coming out today, and I've made that very clear for years, that that's what our evidence has shown with the people involved in this. Which, if you have been to Asia and if you know what's going on to Asia, it doesn't surprise you, because were manufacturing. They were manufacturing. They were getting very, very rich, and we were under attack. And now that has changed. Okay, that has changed. Manufacturing is being brought back to the United States, and it's not that easy to do that. You can't do it in a few months. Um, but President Trump has, he's brought in trillions of dollars of investment promises to build in the United States and with his tariffs. And this makes a huge difference in this case. And you go, why does that matter? Well, if your country is doing well, um, and it's not under attack, um, then you're not going to have the betrayals as readily. It kind of that's why I compare President Trump to George Washington, because George Washington had so many betrayals. He had so many infiltrators that were loyal to the crown, because in England, they were doing well. They were the leader. They had the leading navy, manufacturing, everything. And in the United States, uh, they were having tough times. And so you had a lot of traders that would support the enslaving of the United States by Britain. That's what that was. Taxes without any representation in the parliament there in England. We had no representation in that parliament, and they wanted to tax us, right? They wanted to make us slaves to them. And so George Washington, um, really quick, only in 5 years, he built our Navy. And that he had to do that very strategically because of all of the spies. He had so many spies everywhere. And that really goes to what's happening today, right? There's so many spies or so many infiltrators. We see that in the FBI. The FBI is just full of bad actors like Colin Whitten. Colin Whitten, from the very, very big Mormon family there from Colonial Juarez. He's right there. His family is right there, millionaires, with the Romneys. The Romneys are a big Colonial Juarez, Colonial Dublin, Nova Casa Grandes, and yeah, they're from that Chihuahua area, and their loyalties are, I wouldn't even say to Mexico so much. I would say to their Mormon faction. That's where their loyalties are. And fine, good, fine. Then that's where you need to be. That's where you need to stay, not in the FBI, not as assistant special agent in the FBI, to run counterintelligence, right? To run counterintelligence against whistleblowers that will expose the cartel, Mormon faction, CCP criminal trafficking that's going on there in the front door of the United States. That's causing so much harm in our military in El Paso, in the United States. And so it's with all of the news that is coming out, that is outing all of these CCP spies right now, and also Middle Eastern. Um, people that came over here illegally, demanding the whole life uh, of a citizen of the United States, but being illegal, right? Just kind that's an invader. That's an invader wanting the booty, right? An invader wanting the booty. That's what that is. Um, and for a long time we were um, giving them our wealth, giving them our wealth. And so, and what does this have to do with Richard? Well, Richard was there and Fort Bliss, and he saw the criminal trafficking. He saw the politics of it. I want to make this very clear. Richard was a MAGA. Richard was a Trump supporter. We were in Israel we had voted absentee voting because we lived in Europe. And we were in Israel, and I know there's all this talk about Israel, but we were on a tour, on an 11-day tour in Israel with friends, and during the 2016 election, we were celebrating. We were really celebrating. Um, and, I didn't realize that that was a close race. I absolutely knew that President Trump was going to win. But I didn't realize the challenges during that race, um, like what they perfected in 2020, right? But I thought he just ran such a magnificent campaign, and sure enough, he did win. Um, I didn't realize what a big deal that was, um, because clearly he ran a magnificent campaign from the very start, and everybody shouldn't have been, um, shocked when he won, right? He worked his tail off, right? But it was the upset was not that he won. The upset was uh, that Donald John Trump was not an inside man, right? Was not an inside man of um, this deep state. He was not a deep state man. He's not a deep state man. That's why they hate him so much, because he's not this deep state man. He absolutely is Americana. He's Americana. And, you know, for, and that's why, they don't hate him because he has blonde hair, or his skin tone, or um, they hate him because he's not a deep stater. That's why they hate him. And of course, for the deep state, the policies are different, right? He has a secure border policy, and that makes a huge difference. And because they were so worried, because you see this with Letitia James, you see this with Jaime Esparza. Clearly, Jaime Esparza was the inside man in the DA office there in 2019 and 2020. He was the inside man, right? Um, and clearly, he was the inside man when he was appointed the Attorney General for the Western District of Texas. And this whole thing with Letitia James is huge news. This is breaking news. Letitia James just ate her own tail. She's just eating her own tail, right? Um, and what do I mean by that? Well, she committed crimes that she was prosecuting to the fullest extent. I mean, she wanted to ruin President Trump. He didn't even commit the crime that she's committing. She absolutely has. Well, we'll see. We'll see. She's been indicted today, which is really good. But for what she was trying to fabricate, around President Trump, and so many people have tried to fabricate around him. He's like the Teflon man, God's on his side. And it just tells you how together he is, right? How together he is, because they really can't find anything to make anything stick. Even though they might have the judges that are uh, dirty judges and unjust judges and dirty attorney general from New York, right? And she campaigned on trying to ruin him, right? Because she must be an inside man, right? And when I mean man, I mean human. Okay, I mean human. So that goes for females and males. So she's the inside person for them, and Jaime Esparza was the inside person there in El Paso. And his DA office was running the intelligence to the cartel. It was like an intelligence office for the cartel, and the AG office became the counterintelligence. Right, he had control over all the federal agencies, the cases, the evidence, and he absolutely could just stop, stall, block, whatever, um, and to run counterintelligence for the cartel so that they could. And the cartel is, I just want to make sure that everyone knows it is absolutely tied to the Mormon faction and to the CCP. It's very treasonous, okay? It's very, very treasonous, very destructive. They're very up to no good. And they want to bring hell and havoc to the United States in order to enrich themselves. And that's what thieves do. They want to wreak hell and havoc on people, steal what they've worked for very, very hard, and take it and enrich themselves, right? And this is what's going on. They want to do it with impunity, so they put in their inside man like Jaime Esparza, and Jaime Esparza plays a really, really big role in the Walmart mass shooting case. And of course, if he plays a very big role in the Walmart mass shooting case and he's up to no good, then because it's intertwined, the Walmart mass shooting case is so intertwined with our son's case that he's absolutely plays a huge role in our son's case. He targeted Richard. He targeted Richard, and he had a major hand in assigning Ray Velarde to, which is El Mayo's attorney, right? The big cartel kingpin, to Richard to extract, to run counterintelligence, right? To extract whatever Richard knew, who Richard talked to, and everything like that. So that's why Jaime Esparza was absolutely running an intelligence agency out of the DA's office for this criminal trafficking cartel, Mormon faction, CCP, treasonous group. That's what he was doing, and he needs to be. He all what this whole thing with Letitia. What are your predictions? What are your predictions? Do you think that by Christmas, Jaime Esparza will also be indicted? Um, you know what what will happen? Are there going to be other AGs indicted? This is like, you got the FBI director being indicted. You have the AG of New York, and New York is a big deal, right? New York is a very big deal because it's the only aristocratic state of the United States. It has a magnificent aristocratic history. Um, and so uh, to see President Trump um, create October 13th as Christopher Columbus Day. It used to be on the 8th, I believe, and now it's going to be on the 13th. Um, what a wonderful thing, and what a wonderful thing for the Italians, um, because what Christopher Columbus did was just incredible. And I'll tell you why what he did was incredible just in just 1 minute or less. And that is that, the United States, America was discovered over and over and over again. But what was so magnificent about Christopher Columbus's character is that he had the wherewithal, and it was brutal. He lost, he just had like river ships. I think the Santa Maria was the only really worthy sea ship. He had the worst crews, and that's because Spain, who sponsored him, um, uh, and I'm thinking, I want to get my history right. Um, I want to make sure it was in Portugal. But anyway, Queen Isabel, right? She sold her jewelry, her last jewelry. It was Spain because they had just kicked out the last of the invaders out of their country. It took them 700 years to kick out the invaders of their country. 700 years. And I've been to the Alhambra, and which was one of the last strongholds of the invaders. And it was just it took so long and a lot of money, and they were broke. Spain was broke, and the trading um, to China was closed because the Ottoman Empire had just won victory over the Dardanelles, which is Turkey, which was Constantinople, which was Byzantium. Byzantium had fallen, and the Ottoman Empire was there, and they weren't in good relations at all with Spain, and so Europe had a big problem. They didn't have a way to trade. Their trade route to China had been blocked. And so they were in desperate. Had no money. They did have their country back, right? They had just outed their invaders, and but they didn't have a trade, and so they gave Christopher Columbus the rat-a-tat ships with the rat-a-tat crew, and said, "Okay, find a way, find a way." Um, and so he went to America, and um, it was he went to the Caribbeans, and the Caribbeans were cannibals. There's lots of records to that. That's not me saying it. There's just lots of records that they were cannibals. Montezuma sold human flesh in the marketplace. They're known for that. Um, and that's it was really really tough to uh, you know, people discovered that area, but they didn't want to stay. They didn't have the wherewithal. And of course, uh, Christopher Columbus did, even with running aground, even having lost a lot of crew, even having mutiny. Um, his voyages, you can read them. They're magnificent journals. And Washington Irving wrote 4 volumes on Christopher Columbus. He's the one that he's a very famous writer. Um, and yeah, it, so is he deserving of President Trump's dedicating a day to him? 100%. 100%. It's a very good thing to see it. Um, sailing the ocean blue in 1482. You know, it's just really, really great. And there's going to be a lot of talk going back and forth. It'll bring the history alive, even in the arguments. It'll bring history alive, and that's a very, very good thing. So, of course, there are going to be people that don't agree, but I'm not one of them. I'm absolutely um, posted it up right away that President Trump has honored Christopher Columbus. He had a great character. He had a great character, and brought so much good, so much good to that area of the world, with others, with the help of others. So, and also to Europe then, because he brought back trade, right? He found the trade route. So, really interesting day today with Letitia James and what that means in to our son's case, to El Paso, to the Walmart case. I think the Walmart case is going to be. Sorry, I'm leading a little bit. It's midnight. We're burning the midnight oil, and I'm kind of just at my ease. Talking to all of you that have helped us so much to move our son's case, to keep it, number one, to keep it out of cold case, right? And two, to get the truth. And we have come so far now. We are working very hard behind the scenes to get our son's remains. That is number one. Get our son's remains. He has been totally honored. So when we get our son's remains, uh, we will absolutely honor him in the highest way possible, and then get accountability. And that is all being worked out right now. Um, we've been working that out for a long time, and it seems that more and more information is coming out, right? More and more information is coming out all the time. This whole thing with um, the fuel being siphoned and stolen, and then people have to go to the gas station and pay these super high prices. And I'm going to tell you, it only takes like 10 cents to get that oil out of the ground. For a barrel, okay? They really overcharge us for our fuel. And now that they double charge us or whatever because they steal it. They steal it and then they sell it back. Um, and who knows how many times they recycle the trafficking of fuel, just like they recycle the trafficking of the corpses at Plenitude Crematorium for the humanitarian aid for unidentified migrants. These people are just fraudsters all the way. And so we have evidence upon evidence about how they commit fraud in the VA, in our military, with the funeral and the mortuary operations, with the fuel, with guns. Taxpayers were paying for guns to go to Ukraine. Half of them were ending up in the hands of being sold to the Mexican cartel. Um, you know, so, and then you have the leadership being part of it, right? Being part of it, like Maru Campos and, General Kelly going over there and working for Mauro Campos, and then Alejandro de la Vega working for Mauro Campos. And of course, you have Beto O'Rourke living right next to the owner, having a house right next to the owner of Plenitude Crematorium, with that most sacrilegious crime that he's committing by recycling remains and giving families, just finely ground rocks in urns, right? Pulverized pulverized rocks in urns, and then taking their loved ones' bodies and recycling it right through. And then so you have um, the really dirty county clerk that has to do all these death certificates and absolutely fraud. And then you have, of course, the chief medical examiner, which is in the United States in El Paso illegally. He's illegally there. That was part of Veronica Escobar's little scheme to get him over there. And he's cartel. He's absolutely cartel. And he's connected to Richard's case, with the people in Richard's case, and also with the Walmart mass shooting and the victims in the Walmart mass shooting. And so, and here he is, not qualified to be the chief medical examiner. But they have to, that's part of their scheme. That's part of their fraudsters. They have to have the likes of Jaime Esparza, Mario Raskin Ortiz, and they have to have their real nasty deep staters in the position, and then they absolutely have this criminal syndicate that's making millions and even billions of dollars because of the substances, because of the human trafficking, the children trafficking, hundreds of thousands of children trafficking, and they have to traffic them somewhere, right? They traffic them through the United States, but they also go through the ports and go to Asia, the CCP. And that is a lot of like organ trafficking. And this was all like, can you imagine? It's just horror stories. It's just a horror for us. And that's why we insist we have to continue we want to know what happened to Richard's remains. This is very, very important to us, and we want his remains. And so, because this cannot be ignored. This is a U.S. Army soldier on a military installation that his life is taken. His body is stolen and trafficked, dismembered and trafficked, and that part of it is from the mortuary operations. I mean, they're participating in this. I mean, we don't have a country if this kind of stuff happens. So we absolutely have to fight this with everything we have, and we are. And we appreciate you fighting along with us. Fight, fight, fight for what's right. We're very, very grateful for this. We can't have the media um, uh, uh, operating as counterintelligence too, right? As a cover up with all their fake stories and um, uh, you know, uh, people are saying that this whole Letitia James, this is, revenge from President Trump. But give me a break. Give me a break. She was absolutely unhinged, y'all. She was absolutely a predator. She was a predator before she even got in. She ran being a predator. And her, yeah, her target was President Trump, okay? Um, yeah, no, she was totally unhinged. And is this revenge? No, this is absolutely, she's the one. President Trump didn't take her hand and sign her name to her mortgage agreements, lying. He didn't do that. She did it herself. She did it all herself. She ate her own tail. She ate her own tail, and it comes to bite her. It comes to gag her, and she deserves every bit of the law, because nobody is above the law, right? Nobody is above the law. And so this was a very, very good day to have this kind of justice. This kind of justice, that they think that they can just weaponize themselves, and yet the law does not apply to them. They can just break the law every which way they want. And that's what Jaime Esparza was doing. That's what Letitia James was doing. That's what so many were doing. And they are absolute criminals. They break the laws, and yet they are deceptive. They play the part as, oh, I'm going to take an oath to the Constitution of the United States. And whereas behind the scenes, behind their little curtain, they don't give a squat. They just break it, break it, break it. They're very deceptive. They are absolutely wolves in sheep's clothing. They are traitors. These are acts of treason. And people go, oh, no, it's not treason. No, this was absolutely against the presidential election, against the president. This was absolute. And uh, to to take Richard's life was also to silence him because he was corroborating President Trump's policies. Okay, that's what he was doing, and of course he had information on the Walmart mass shooting orchestration. That horrible, bloody orchestration that we know we don't have justice on yet because there were multiple shooters. It's kind of like this whole Charlie Kirk thing, right? The whole Charlie Kirk, and I've been trying to keep up with that with Candace Owens, and what has been happening with her. And one thing that they're missing is that they're not mentioning the Mormon faction, Twigs, that the furry guy, right? The furry guy that is missing now. His family are peers to Woody Hunt, right? These are power brokers. These are people with a lot of resources and a lot of connections, a lot of millions and a lot of connections, a lot of business connections, a lot of political connections. And, people are ignoring that. And why? Why are they ignoring that? Why do the Mormon faction get a pass? If you're in a Catholic and you do something wrong, if you're a Jew and you do something wrong, if you're a Southern Baptist and you do something wrong, if you're a Muslim and you do something wrong, we all take our lumps. We all take our lumps for what we do wrong. But this Mormon faction gets a pass. Why do they get a pass? They are doing some really, really, really bad things. Really bad things. They need to take their lumps too. But because they have all these resources, and then they have this deception, they put this deception of whatever patriotism or benevolence or whatever, and they have none of it. They have none of it. They are part of this cartel. This Mormon faction is up to no good. And to have this Twiggs family involved in the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and no one is outing the connections of this Mormon faction back to what's happening, even down in El Paso, where the whole legal system, the whole judicial system has been totally broken by this Mormon faction that's connected with the cartel, that's connected with the CCP. Well, hello, if you want to ruin a country, if you want to take over a country, if you want to extort from a country, if you want to do criminal business with impunity, that's what you do. You ruin the law enforcement, you ruin the judicial system, and then you can just be the big bully. You can just be the big bully and do your criminal activity with impunity. And that Woody Hunt is up to no good, y'all, up to no good over and over and over again. And he is peers with the Twigs family. And these are people that know each other. They know each other. And in the attempts against President Trump also, and they don't talk about it. They're all like, oh, it must be Israel, it must be. What are you talking about? It was that UVU, and it was twig. You can say, okay, this is Robinson, Tyler Robinson. Yes, yes, same thing. But Twig's family, has a gold spoon in their mouth, and up to no good. So, and Pierce with uh, confirmed, confirmed Mormon faction that is up to no good with the cartel, with all of this criminal trafficking, with what they did to Richard, a U.S. Army soldier on base. That means they're up to no good on Fort Bliss. And so, I don't understand why all of these different media, they must be very afraid of this group. I don't know. Or maybe they don't know. Maybe they don't know. So that's why our live streams are so important and so important to share because there are Mormons out there that have no clue that what is going on with this Mormon faction. And I don't think they would be very happy with it at all. And maybe there are some that are victims that know what's happening and they're just waiting for people to come and help and point it out and stop this injustice that's going on, right? So, yeah, this is where we're at. And we're getting closer and closer. We're absolutely over the target. And, uh, you know, uh, with Letitia James, that sends a huge precedence for for the AG office there in El Paso and the DA's office. So thank you so much. Let me read some of your comments. Thank you, Laura, for coming on. Thank you for your prayers and your encouragement. And Anicia, thank you for your prayers and your love. Um, Laura says, hopefully, because Jaime Esparza sure didn't do anything for children in domestic violence shelter. Oh, no way. I mean, he was AG during the whole thing with hundreds of thousands of children being trafficked. And they all knew. He also knew about the Mayella family. He's friends with like Judge David Campos, Judge Madrano, and him go play golf. Sam, um, no, Joe Spencer and him go, the three of them go and play golf together. They know who's in that federal courthouse managing cases. That's their job. They know who the Mayellas are. Matter of fact, Michael Maiello worked for him in the DA's office. Michael Maiello worked for Jaime Esparza in the DA's office with James Bonneau Montoya, Mr. 2028 stamp. Okay, they know each other very, very well, and they absolutely knew that that family was married into the Crucius family, which totally rewrites that whole case because the case was that Patrick Crucius didn't know anybody in El Paso, that he just picked it out of random, and that was all a lie. So, Jaime Esparza absolutely is very, very important to all of this, and he needs to be indicted too. He needs to be indicted too, and quick, and quick. And even though he left in February of 2025, but there's so much crime there that is still that needs to be addressed. Absolutely, with the Walmart mass shooting case, with our son's case, and so many other cases that you know he was running intelligence and counterintelligence for with the DA's office and the U.S. Attorney's office. So yeah, so much going on there. Just imagine. how they oppress single mothers. They don't play their agenda. Absolutely. And look what they did to a soldier, too. Look what they did to all the children. Look what they did to all the women coming over the border. Look what they did to all the people that came over the border illegally. They were making them criminals. They were absolutely making them criminals. That's why they need to go away. They need to go away, and then they need to apply. If they really want to come into this country, they need to apply to come in legally so that when they're here, they're not criminals. That because if they come in as criminals, under a false visa, using a false security number, or just without anything, just trying to work under the table, um, they are very easily misled. They're very easily bribed. They're very easily trafficked. They're very easily brought into a cartel. They're very easy. It's so dangerous for them. And see, look at the one guy that got caught with the parents selling out their children because the parents were so desperate they sold their children. So, they've got to these illegal migrants that came into the country. They need to go back and they need to apply to be legal. And then they can live in freedom, right? They can live without being blackmailed or looking over their shoulder for ICE or something like that, right? They can live with peace. So this is was so cruel to convince so many people, millions and millions of people, to come into a country illegally. It was just really, no matter how much money they got or whatever, it was still very, very cruel. And it was very, very cruel for us, for those that live in the country, because the resources went to them and not to making America more prosperous, right? So, yeah, it really is an amazing time to be alive, to see what's happening. And, I think the Insurrection Act is about to be um, pulled out, pulled out and used. There's been a lot of preparation with that. That's what our indications are, and what we're getting back. So and that's going to make a big difference too. It looks like with the courts, it's going to work. It's going to work to bring out that Insurrection Act. So. Um, yeah, thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for sharing and everything that you do. And we will be back tomorrow, God willing. Thank you so much.